Hey, can you guys hear me okay? We're good? Awesome. Okay. So business intermediary, not everybody knows that term. It is another word for a business broker, but I don't even like calling myself a business broker at all because I am going to show you what everybody pictures when they Girls, I have these. This is on my website, and my business, my mastermind that I'm in. They were like, Christine, take that. You can't put that on your website. I'm like, this is literally what they look like. They're like, yeah, you're gonna piss some other brokers off, and I'm like, if you're not pissing people off, you guys, like, you're not doing big enough things. So it's okay to piss people off a little bit. So, but honestly, this is who they are. And do you think these guys are gonna know how to sell a bridal store? Maybe, maybe not, I don't know. So I'll tell you my quick origin story. When I was 23 years old, I started Christine's Cleaning Service in San Diego. That's where I live. And yeah, I just $300 and charged a vacuum cleaner to a credit card and started cleaning condos in downtown San Diego in 2003. I'm 41, so I'll save you guys the math. And here I am with my little cleaning team, and they didn't speak any Spanish. They didn't speak any English, so that was fun trying to learn how to clean. I didn't know how to clean houses. I didn't know what I was doing. I was just, again, young, 23, naive, starting my own little business. Grew it to one of the largest privately owned in 5 years in San Diego. It's called, I changed the name to Cleanology. That sounded a lot better than Christine's Cleaning Service, because Christine didn't need it, was going to be cleaning all the time. And after 5 years, I wanted to sell the business, and I called those business brokers that you just saw the pictures of, and they were so condescending and so rude and mean, and it was just a horrible, horrible experience. You know, similar to kind of Beth, you know, it's fun. Sometimes you start a company because you're so unsatisfied with the industry or how you're treated. So, but it wasn't until a lot of years later that I get into becoming a business broker. But that was my origin story, and I'll share a little bit of stories of kind of, I had to hire a business broker because I didn't know how to sell my own business that first time, and I ended up with a decent one. The biggest mistake was he wrote in the contract 90 days. So girls, whether or not you want to sell right now or later, just please keep the little things I tell you today in your head for later. He wrote in the contract 90 days of training. Mind you, I had 30 employees, I had a manager, I was really never there at that point, 90 days of training, and I'm like, well, I don't want to train the new owner for 90 days, like, I'm not even really at the business anymore. And he goes, oh, Christine, they're never going to take you up on it. After like a week or two, he'll kick you out of there. And the buyer held me to the 90 days, and I'd already started my next company. So please start there. Do not do 90 days of training on your business. That's not necessary, especially if you have managers in place. Please try not to write that in. So how many of you have an exit strategy? And it's kind of a trick question because, okay, yeah, nobody. Don't feel bad. How many of you had an enter strategy when you started did you plan for years before you started your bridal store? Probably not. Years? Oh, wow. Okay, good for you girls. Okay, so I don't want anybody to feel guilty right now if you don't have a plan in mind of when you're gonna sell your business, how you're gonna sell your business. Like, don't even worry about that. You'll know your perfect time to sell. For sure right now, it is a seller's market. You know, again, sell when you want to sell when you're ready, but right now it is super hot, and there's this like perfect storm that's happened, I think. First off, it's COVID. So a lot of people had a lot of freedom. People that were in corporate positions had freedom during that COVID time. They got to work from home, they had more flexible hours. So now once they went back to that corporate environment, they were like, oh, you know, I don't want this. Their priorities changed once they went through a pandemic, just personally. They're like, do I really want to not be home with my family as much? So a lot of corporate people are leaving corporate and buying their first businesses. So we're seeing, so the majority of our listings are actually first-time buyers, which is exciting. And I'm always working on the seller side, strictly on the sellers. But if the buyer's unrepresented, I'm typically then helping them also with the transaction, so it moves a lot quicker. And that's exciting. I get a lot of joy to the first-time buyers. The great resignation is, again, what's happening. People are resigning out of corporate in huge numbers. And right now there's amazing terms on financing, and we'll talk a little bit about that in a second. So there's really cheap money out there to borrow if you have good credit to purchase a business, right? And that's the money they're going to use to buy your business. and then setting the stage for your dream sale. So I know there was a little bit of talk about manifesting and the universe and all that fun stuff, and I'm from California, San Diego, so of course maybe we're a little bit more on the manifesting side there. Once you make a decision, the universe is going to automatically start conspiring to make that happen. The signs will be there, the direction will start kind of making its way. And at the end of this presentation, I have a QR code, so you don't have to write all this down. This part, we have these really cute forms we've developed that we have our clients fill out. So one of them is a dream sale manifesting. Like, what's your dream life? Like, what do you want to do in the long term? How would selling your business help you achieve that long-term plan? And we also have a few other forms or questions. We have all our clients actually, like, who is your dream buyer? If you could have anybody, this is your business, your bridal store, it's your baby. Like, most people are not gonna just take the highest price. They're gonna want to actually find the right buyer. And that's something I'm more proud of than, of course, we get a lot of money for people's businesses, and that's super exciting, and I love a challenge, and I love negotiating. But what I'm most excited about is the buyers we find. They're just the most amazing, and you can talk to all my sellers. All the testimonials are on our website. You can reach out to them anytime. They have the coolest freaking buyers. That are really rad people, down to earth, made the transaction really smooth. If the person's a nightmare already when they're trying to buy your business, it is only gonna get worse. And you don't wanna do that to your team. You don't wanna do that to your clients. So it's important to find the right person. So we kind of help manifest that and get that out of our buyers, so then we know how to market and position the business. Sarah on the top left had a digital marketing branding agency we sold in December, and she was gonna walk. She had it for 20 years, and she was gonna walk, and she's like, oh, I'm just gonna shut it down. So please, nobody in this room shut down your business, because you always have something to sell, I promise, some sort of assets, something you've built. You can't it breaks my heart if you just shut it down. And so she said, I'm like, let's just list it for something. Let's get you something. Let's just give it a shot. And I said, what would you be happy with? And she said 150,000. She's like, if I got 150, I'd be thrilled. Long story short, we got our 300 cash, and it closed within 3 months. So she was a happy girl for sure. Jill, second one, is a mother of 2 4-year-old twins and a wife, and also had a digital marketing agency for financial planners. And she had it for 11 years. And we sold that for her, a little bit over asking price, another amazing buyer. And this is the funny thing too, you guys, is men, so I work with women are my sellers, but men are typically the buyers. That's just the way it's been, and which is fine too. So it's usually men buying these businesses. And then Sandy, funny story, talking about origin stories again, she had a wine bar and restaurant in San Diego. And we never ever, and I'm going to talk about that, it's super confidential. We are not saying the name of your business at all until we talk to them on the phone first, make sure they're qualified, make sure they're a good fit, then they sign an NDA. Well, this guy was super interested, and he makes the appointment to go see the business. He signs the NDA, and then we tell, and they're thrilled. They're so excited about this business. We tell them the name when we give them the address, and I still get chills. He's like, me and my wife had our first date there at the wine bar. I know, so I get chills. So do you think they bought the business? Immediately, way over asking, and they closed within a day. That was our fastest transaction at 22 days flat, from the day we listed to the day it sold. Again, there's that emotional connection, right? So you never know the reason why someone's gonna buy your business, but that right when I heard they had their first date, I was like, oh my gosh, I think they're buying this business. So having team. So obviously, the more self-sufficient, a business is going to have more value to it if it has a team in place and if it's self-sufficient and if you're not there as much. Of course, any owner's always going to be involved in some capacity. We understand that. We actually do this really great owner's duty. We have our sellers really write a detailed one-pager of what do they do in the business each week, whether it's 5 hours a week, 10, 20, 80, we present that so that they can see, okay, the owner works this many hours a week, and they handle, managing, making the schedule, paying the bills, or whatever it is. But yeah, the more you can, and again, this conference, the speakers were so amazing, because I was like, yes, this is everything they need to do to get their business in that position to sell. It's a lot of the stuff that was talked about yesterday. Reviews is massive, and I was so excited when Emily spoke about it, Adrian spoke about reviews. You guys, like, I'm saying that's number one. Whatever you need to do to get those reviews, and I know you guys are busy, and it's hard to get those testimonials and the reviews after the fact, but whatever you need to do. And just so you guys know, be careful on Google reviews, because some owners are, there's like a little link you can email, like, hey, click this link, write us a review. Actually don't do that, because Google's filtering them out, we're learning. So actually, like, teach your client, hey, Google the name of my store to write the review. So that's why they're getting filtered on Google. So yeah, do not give, I know you're trying to make it easy for them, and I was doing the same, like, oh, here's the link, just click, it takes 2 minutes. And then Google was filtering them. So Yelp, Google reviews, please, as many reviews, just do whatever it takes to have an impeccable reputation. If you have 5 stars, incredible reputation, that's what a buyer is purchasing, right? They're short, because this is what they're doing. They're looking at your purchase price and they're deciding, okay, should I just open my own store up, or should I pay $300K, $400K, whatever for this, to shortcut it? They've got an incredible reputation. They've got 10 years in business. They have a team in place. So when you put yourself in the perspective of the buyer, that's the decision they're trying to make. Do I pay all this money to shortcut it, or do I start from scratch? Speaking of team, guys, okay, this is what I get asked all the time. This is probably the hardest thing. How and when do I tell my team? Okay, and I know all of you guys are close to your team. They're like family, I'm sure. You're very transparent about every aspect of the business. But when you list it for sale, you just can't tell them, and it's so hard. There's a million reasons, which I don't have time to get into, of why. They get scared is the biggest, and they might go find another job. They might go work for a competitor. They might start telling other people. Your competitor finds out. Your clients find out. You just cannot tell anybody at that moment until the day it closes, unfortunately, which is really hard. We just had one March 31st. We had 2 closings, and I told my seller and the buyer, I was working with both of them, I said, hey girls, do you guys want to tell your team on the closing day, March 31st, or do you want to tell them Friday morning? And we all collectively decided, let's do Friday morning. 31st is the last day that the current owner owns the business. Let's try. You're already laughing. You know what day that was. Okay, so we planned that a couple weeks in advance. And I'm like, okay, Friday morning, great. And it was the weekend before. I'm like, oh my God, that's April Fool's Day. Oh, shit. And we told them on Friday morning, April Fool, obviously the owners were like, this isn't an April Fool's joke. Like, I sold the business. Here's your new owner. And it went okay. It was 6 employees standing there, and it went fine. And again, I don't know if in hindsight, I guess it was fine either way. It is what it is, but I just didn't put 2 and 2 together until after the fact. So you are going to tell them the day it closes. Now, but the next question is, what if you have a team member that, here we go. You might have a team member a manager especially. So I just sold one of my businesses at a spa I sold the end of last year to my manager, because she treated it like it was her own. Like she treated it probably better than me. She was there all the time. She knew the business inside and out. I wanted to give her that opportunity. And so I think I would have regretted if I sold it and then Jessica came to me and said, why didn't you ask me to buy it? I would have bought it. So I did tell her, and here's the kind of the way you can do. I was very transparent and told her, and she knows I'm a serial entrepreneur, so it wasn't a surprise, but you can actually ask to see if they want to invest. This is the little hack. You pull them aside and say, hey, I'm thinking about bringing in a partner or an investor to help me with this business. Is it something you would ever consider? Because if they're willing to maybe invest find some capital and become a partner, then the very next step would be to maybe own the whole business. So by guiding that conversation, you can get a feel for what their future, if maybe they'd want to buy it. So I would start with that, if they want to be a partner or an investor. And then if that conversation goes well, just say, hey, what would your thoughts be about buying my business? And then you just open the conversation up. And then I think that's the easiest way to do it. Because again, a lot of them, some of them, you would love to, and it's so easy when you sell to your employee because you barely have to, they already know it. You don't have to train them really much at all. And honesty is the best policy across the board when you're selling your company. Any elephants in the room, guys, we bring them, I get it out I probably do more due diligence on our clients than a buyer does before I take them as a listing. I am combing through every single review. I'm buying things with a fake name. It's an e-commerce company, and I bought something because I want to see her process of shipping the product to my house, the follow-up, et cetera. So she didn't know I did that. I already took the listing, but I did that also, just to make sure like everything you guys tell people is upfront, true. Yeah, if there's any skeletons in the closet, just tell a potential buyer upfront. They appreciate the honesty, to be honest. They're like, wow, you guys aren't hiding. Because if they find one lie, one thing that wasn't true, the buyer will walk. Because in their mind, they're like, well, if they're gonna lie about one thing, they're probably gonna lie about more. So across the board, just be honest to anybody thinking about buying your business, any conversations you're having. We talked about training the new owner. We write up 2 weeks. I think 2 full weeks is plenty of time. If you guys have a playbook or SOPs, like standard operating procedures in place, then I don't see it should ever take longer than 2 weeks to train a new owner. But again, every business is different. You guys might have a more complex business model. It might not be as automated. So that's something in the negotiations, which we're going to talk about in a second. Everything's negotiable. So it's whatever you genuinely think, like, look, it's going to take a full month. Or maybe you don't want to do a full 2 solid weeks. And so I have some sellers that are spreading it out. Like, I just don't want to do that much training all compressed into 2 weeks. Can we spread it out? Can we do 20 hours a week for a month? Like, however you want to do it, you just negotiate that with your buyer. So my 5 core beliefs. Okay, what is your business worth is the question everybody wants to know always. It's what somebody is willing to pay for it. It is as simple as that. I know there's all these formulas and EBITDA, and it's a multiple of your EBITDA, but that's not true because it's team, it's reputation we just talked about, it's reviews, it's how long you've been in business, there's so many components. We kind of pull everything in when we value a business or one of our clients. Of course, there's still that EBITDA of your net profits. Of course, be concentrating really hard. The Christine you saw in the picture from all those years ago at the cleaning company, all she cared about was creating $1 million company. That's all I cared about. Gross revenue, $1 million, and then there were times where we were making $400K a year at one year, and there was 0 on the net, and I was like, what am I doing? This is like a charity. What are we doing? And so I think everybody gets so focused on that top line number that you at the end of the day, you're like, oh my God, there's no money left. And that's the number people care about. So making sure that you keep that number really healthy, and we're gonna talk a second about that in a little more detail. But that's important. Time kills all deals. I say this all the time. I act like there's this sense of urgency that I run under. I don't know where it comes from. I guess I've just seen a lot in my business. Being an entrepreneur for 18 years, I've seen everything you could think of. So anything could go wrong. Anything could go wrong. And so I'm just we got to get this deal done. Whatever it takes. Move. Next step. Lead the buyer to the closing table and get the deal done. I even use the example. I used to use the example like a war can break out. I'm like, 9/11, COVID, war. The buyer can have a health issue or an accident. Up until the day the money's wired into your account, like your business is not sold. Because what will happen is people get excited once it's under a contract. It's under an LOI, which is a letter of intent. Somebody's excited. They're buying your business. But then there's that time period until the purchase agreement. And then there's the time period until the day of closing when the money's wired and your business is not yours anymore. And there's just this, we have to get to that day. And it's like, but my seller's kind of like, oh, my business is sold. One just bought a house. I'm like, don't buy a house yet. I'm like, wait a minute. But that's a tricky part. Well, actually, let me talk about that. So that's true. I've had that problem too. So that's a real tricky one because you need proof of income. And the day you sell your business, you just lost your income. You got this large pile of money, but a mortgage company is like, yeah, but you don't have a job anymore. So that is a delicate balance. I didn't know she did that. I would have told her just wait a couple more weeks. It's like we weren't close enough, but it all worked out, thank God. Okay, is there any marathon runners in the room? Okay, or half marathon, any runners, long distance runners? Okay, mile 23. It's rough. You got 3 more miles, okay? This selling your business is you're literally going to sprint the last, it's literally your mile 23, you're dying, you've built this company from scratch, you've been running it for years, you're over it, you're burned out, but now you're about to sprint 3 more miles to the finish line because you're running your company and now you're gonna do everything it takes to continue growing it as fast as you can. Kind of like when you start, the chaos of when you started your business, I feel like it's that same energy we need to get back out of you. Because if we can push even more profit to the bottom, let's use a 3x multiple, okay? As an example, in this example. If I can just get you to push like 20 extra K to that bottom line, then that's like 60K more in your pocket because we're selling your business for 3 times your multiple for your business. So it's like, oh, just like, I know you don't want to do it. Again, it depends on the position. The listings we're taking, everybody's like, I'm like, when do you want to sell your business? They're like, yesterday. I'm like, okay, let's do it right now. So we get it listed, we're fixing it as it's listed, we're selling it quickly. But yeah, it's I'm not gonna lie, it's a little bit of that last, whatever you have left in your tank. And the businesses we're selling now did really well during COVID. But I'll be honest with you, that was the last what these women had in their tank. They were like, we made it through COVID. You know, and they did amazingly. And some of them pivoted in the most amazing ways. Like I loved, hearing Cindy last night, I was cracking up. I loved her story of how quick she pivoted her restaurant, Orange County, because like that's what you needed to do, right? And the sellers we're working with did some really unique things. A house plant, adorable house plant boutique in San Diego. And they were only in business like a year and a half. But then the house plant industry exploded during COVID because everybody was home. So what do? They take all their plants and they would, once California like opened back up in that time period, every single day they were taking house plants, putting them outside so that the consumers, because technically you could shop, you could be outside, people just couldn't technically come into their store. But imagine a husband and wife team like moving house plants out, trying to create shade so they don't burn in the sun, and then at the end of the day bring everything back in the store. And they did that during COVID and they just killed it. But again, COVID ended. So last year they came to me in November and they're just like, we're just beyond burned out. Like we have to sell this business. And we did, which is great. But yeah, props to everybody. I know it's been said multiple times from the stage, but yeah, to make it through what everybody just went through is a massive accomplishment. So a pat on everybody's back in this room. And your company has more value than you think. So more often than not, the women come down, just like Sarah. Sarah's a great example. Like, oh, can I get 150? I'm like, we got you 300. I'm like, of course we can get you 150. Like, you guys are just, again, she had it for 20 years. You're so in the weeds in your own business that you don't, see the value. It's sad, it's hard. And I guess it just takes our outside perspective because I kind of know what to look for of like, wow, this is really cool. What about this part of your business? Things that you've built that you don't even realize are really magical and special. And I think that's something cool that we get to do. And a lot of our sellers now and that we've sold, they get like, they actually get excited about their companies. One almost changed their mind because she got like pumped up about her business again. I'm like, no. Like it's already sold. It's under contract. Don't change your mind. Please don't change your mind. She's like, well, maybe we could get more later. I'm like, Sarah, I don't think so. I'm going to be honest. Like, again, it's such a frothy, hot market. I don't know how long this is going to last. I was like, I don't want to chance that. Like, let's just call it a day. But I'm glad you're excited about your business again. That's cool because you get to see this prospective buyers. You get to see it from their lens too. We go on Zoom, and I'm going to show you kind of how we position and pitch the businesses to sell. And I think it just gets the seller excited again and kind of re-energized. My last core belief is buyers pay for the past, but they buy for the future. Again, you're in the trenches. You don't really see all this value you've built through the years. So it's so important to kind of position your business to reflect that. Financials. I know. Okay, Dan, because nobody wants to talk about financials. I laughed yesterday when a couple people were like, nobody wants to do this stuff. I'm telling you, not even me. I like reading P&Ls. I geek out. But we have resources at the end of my presentation you guys are going to get. But we have a playlist on Spotify with some fun, like uplifting, like, you know, femme power, women power business songs. Beyonce, of course, is on there. Britney Spears, you know, all the good ones. So you guys have a link for that. So if you ever have to when you have to do this financial stuff, just put the playlist on and make it fun, and maybe dance if you need to. Okay, so we as a firm, we're kind of pulling this. We do a lot of the heavy lifting because I know how busy business owners are. And I forgot to mention, in the very beginning, Cleanology, you saw my little Christine's cleaning business. So since Cleanology, I've built and sold 10 companies from scratch on my own, all different industries. It's insane. And then I've like bought and acquired another 10. So like over 20 of my own transactions. So I kept doing this for myself. I did the business broker on the first one, learned my lesson. It's like I did everything he did. I actually literally took the same purchase agreement he used on my first transaction and just used it for even really big deals that my business friends were like, Christine, you can't sell your spa. Like you can't do it without a broker. I'm like, there is no. So everybody in the room, you don't have to use me. You don't have to use a broker at all. You can sell your own company. And some people don't even realize that. It's like you built it from scratch. You know it better than anybody. You can sell your own business. So I just want to say that. And then that's why I started doing it for other people, because I kept doing my own, and then my friends asked me to help them. So okay, financials. We're looking at we're either pulling it from you or you're putting this together. Past 3 to 4 years, ideally. We say 4 right now because COVID was such this like outlier, strange year for a lot of businesses. So we're able, banks, even for financing, banks is like stripping out 2020. And they're using 2019, 2021, and 22. They're using 3 years stripping out that 2020, which is really cool. And they're taking averages that way. Trailing 12 is the last 12 full months. So right now, your trailing 12 would be April 1st of last year all the way to March 31st. Oh, no, today's May 2nd. So yeah, April 30th. Okay. May 1st, April 30th would be your trailing 12 as of right now. Again, we're so early in the month that even if you gave a buyer till the end of March, they'd be cool. You could be like, well, our books aren't done yet for April. It was the weekend. So that would be your trailing 12 that they want to look at. And they want to see it by month, so they see seasonality or just they get a gist of your monthly expenses by month. Add backs. Okay, so a couple things. Let me check my time. Okay. So I see this a lot. Okay, some people aren't running anything through their business personally at all. Okay, I am not the IRS. You guys run as much stuff as your accountant lets you get away with. Anything you want, trips, vacation, eating out, whatever your CPA, your accountant lets you get away with. Please do that for tax reasons. That's what the tax code is written for. It's in the advantages of business owners. So do that. Because some people say, well, Christine, I didn't want to do that because I knew I was going to sell my business, so I didn't run anything through my business. But I was like, no, we get to add that back, you guys. So add backs are, we take all your expenses, and then we strip out, we start pulling out anything that genuinely was personal. Maybe you bought a laptop for $2,000 for yourself, and I can explain that to so it's just, I have to explain it all, of course. Hey, that's her $2,000 personal laptop. She bought it through the business. We're gonna add that back to her net profit. Okay, here's a vacation she took. It was not business. We're not telling the IRS, but here's $5,000 we're gonna add back. So we're gonna show that, and it's called add backs, seller discretionary income. So it's still your income, but you just took it as a vacation, you took a laptop. So please still run stuff through your business. Don't feel bad about that at all, even if you're gonna sell, because we're just gonna add it back very clearly and define it anyways. Tax returns, 2 years. It's weird, a lot of the ones that just closed, we didn't even need to show tax returns because those will never match properly anyways. Because again, I just told you, you're running so much stuff through your business, your tax return shows some horrible, ugly number, little number, but a buyer gets it, man. Most of them are business owners already, or have been, or they just understand how it works. Like, hey guys, here's the bank statements of the bridal store. You see all the expenses, all the income. So a lot of times they can use that. Sometimes if you're getting a bank loan, they are going to want to see those tax returns no matter what. So with bank loans, that might be a little bit different. And then some other financial calculations that we put together to show. Do not, oh my gosh, these lazy brokers. Okay, these brokers, because sometimes I spy on them, and I like send an inquiry, and then they just send me somebody's all their financials. Like I just type in my first name, like, oh, I'm interested in this business. They shoot me over an email with all their financials, their tax returns and everything. And I'm like, holy cow, like no phone call, nothing. So just don't, it's so, ugh. So like don't share your financials until later in the process. We don't share our clients' financials until after, so we do an initial phone call, make sure they're interested. We're gonna do a pitch on Zoom, typically face-to-face or a phone call with the owner. I want the owner to connect with that buyer and to make sure it's a fit before we even divulge all your guys' information. It might be you don't know, it might be your competitor just trying to check out your financials. You don't know that. So we wanna wait until towards the end of the process to share that data room with your financials. We really guard them. This is a really cool hack that we're finding out just recently. Did any of you guys get an EIDL loan? Okay, great. So in October, I got caught wind that there's a way you can transfer it. If somebody buys your business, you can transfer this loan to the buyer. And some people had the money sitting on their balance sheet. They didn't spend the money. It's still sitting in their business. And we find this out, and I have one where I'm like, oh my gosh, Teresa just maxed, she took 40. She was like, yeah, they keep saying if I should take more. I'm like, this is the cheapest money ever. You have to take this money. Just so you girls know, this is a 30-year loan, 2.75% interest on 30-year loan for your business. These loans are 150K, 200K, 40, they range. It's whatever but they gave a lot of money out. And what's really cool is if you can borrow that money, and you guys haven't even had to make any payments for 30 months. They just extended it to November. They just tacked on another 6 months, meaning in November, that means businesses had 30 months of no payments on this loan, which is really rad. Well, we just had a transaction just last week close where we're transferring her. I told her, Teresa, just go max it out. And she's really nervous. I said, just put it in your bank account. Don't touch it. I go, worst case, Teresa, we pay back. Like, if it doesn't transfer, we just pay it back to the government. And this buyer couldn't come up with the $275 purchase price. She couldn't come up with all of it. So she's using that $150,000 loan to pay Teresa, the seller. And then she's coming in with the difference. So I was like, see, I'm like, I told you, like, aren't you glad? Now she's glad I told her to get that loan. But yeah, if you guys have the loan, if they're offering you to get more money right now, which some business owners, they are asking, like, hey, do you want to max it out? Max that sucker out. And even just keep the money in your account. It's just really cheap money. Even if you don't like debt, I know some people hate debt, and that's why they're not doing it, but you might be able to use it down the road. So just knowing your numbers, making sure you're clear on numbers, timing matters. Try to list your business, because I know you guys have busy seasons, so try to list it when you're kind of in that busy season so that your numbers, kind of your prior 12 months looks good and kind of looks like it's going on an incline is ideal if you can. Preparing your assets. Okay, the power's in the prep. Okay, so Eco Chateau was my largest exit to date. I started 2012 and sold in 2017. And this is when I had the idea for these pitch decks. I was like, okay, when people raise money, all this VC capital money, it's like when these companies raise capital, they have these slick decks, slick presentations with all this information. And I'm like, why couldn't I do that when I sell? And I'm a marketer. I'm a marketer and a salesperson at heart. So I'm a marketer. I'm like, okay, how can I paint this amazing picture and get even more value for my business? People are very visual. And I've seen the power the power decks, the PowerPoints. They're gorgeous. You guys are visual. You guys are amazing at branding. So put together an incredible detailed deck of your business from A to Z. So we talked about the beginnings. We put the staff in there. I put my milestones of my company and my potential buyers. I actually walked them through this deck. They sat with me in my office before they even went upstairs to look at the spa. On a Sunday, we went through this presentation because it told the story. Again, tying story. People love stories. So it was me walking them through the origin story of starting Eco Chateau from scratch. That business, I had 5 years too. I think I had this 5-year itch anytime I start a company, I swear. I always like sell it within 5 years. And then they love visuals on money. So we do this for our clients. So if I see a chart, we have a recent client where the chart's going down. So we took the slide out. I told my team, I'm like, take the slide out. out. The chart's going down. I'm like, we don't want to draw attention to a chart that's going down. And then she's like, okay. She's like, I put it there just in case. I'm like, yeah, delete. So you always want to see something going up, right? They want to see the traction, the fast growth, where you're at, where the projection is for the year. And then a deadline. Girls, write this down. You have to point. It's not like put a little for sale sign. I know it's so sad. I think people just get over their businesses and they're like so burned out that they're just put an ad, business for sale, and put an ad, or they get a broker. They're done. But if you put the work into running an actual process and coming up with these assets to really paint this amazing picture of your business, I'm telling you, you will net out you'll get more in your pocket no matter what. Immediately. And this deadline is so important because everybody is like, people will not take action. If you're just like, oh, my business is for sale. No, it's like, great, this business is for sale. We're collecting all. And there's that one word. I love words. I love marketing. All automatically means psychology. It means, oh my God, they're going to have more than one offer. So it's already conditioning them to think, oh my gosh, all LOIs, all offers, oh my God, there's a deadline, we need to move. And this works every single time with all of our clients. Sometimes we have to push the LOI deadline out if we don't have enough coming in, which we're fine doing. But every time we do this, it works. Prep. For you guys, we have physical prep. We'll start with physical for you guys, especially if you have physical stores. So just like you're staging a house, guys, like the Plant Boutique, it sold so quick, I guess it was a good problem to have, but they didn't, like every weekend, I was even like, guys, I'll come help you. We got to clean up the stock room is like a mess. I'm like, guys, I'll come in on the weekend. We got to straighten this up. So you want to make it look really clean, really cool, organized. I'm sure a lot of your stores already are, so you could skip this step. So making sure your inventory is up to date. We have one that she's e-com and she had to it's taken like 2 weeks because her inventory it's just like a mess. It wasn't counted properly. So she just did a recount. So making sure that's ready. Virtually, your online presence, making sure you've got those great reviews, making sure your website looks great and slick and good to go. The cost so use caution when you're investing in certain things right now, because again, we want to keep that bottom line really healthy. And because we have one client right now, she just spent 10 grand redoing a beautiful website, which we can't technically, so I have to talk through it with each presentation, with each buyer. We show it, we highlighted it. Hey, she spent $10,000 last year. We didn't add it back. You're not going to see it added back to the bottom, but just so you're aware, she spent $10,000 updating her website because it had been 6 years. This is something you will not have to do for a long time. She already invested the 10 grand. So we highlighted, we showed it. Just try not to do super expensive. Don't spend a lot of money doing some of this stuff is my point, I guess. Just being careful on that, unless it's really needed and it'll show the value. If your website's really dated, then it'll probably be worth it. And adding e-commerce. Again, Plant Shop example, again, because that one just closed March 31st, so it's fresh in my head. We bid out to build their e-com. As a firm, I was going to build their e-com side out real quick because I knew it would add a ton of value. They didn't have e-com yet, and I knew I could position that, but the buyer, again, it sold quickly without having to do that, so that's nice, but yeah, that's always an option if you guys don't have e-com, is to kind of add that stuff on. Everything's negotiable. Okay, I wish it was just the purchase price we're negotiating, but it's not. And again, I love negotiating. It is everything. It's the purchase price. It's how they're going to pay. So it's the payment terms. How soon are we going to close by? How long is the training? Are the employees going to stay? Sometimes they need to speak with your key members, and I push that super close to the close. So then sometimes we do have to tell those team members a little earlier because the buyer wants to keep them on and wants to give them an employment offer, which is fine. But then in that case, we do have to tell them right before the close to make sure they agree to stay with the new owner. Again, that's why it's so important to find a great owner, a great buyer, guys. Because otherwise, if you find a bad one and then your team is screw this, I'm out of here, and they quit, it can blow the whole deal up. So that's the other reason why, if you find really cool buyers like we do, the team is super excited, every single time the new buyer gives everybody a raise, even even every time I sell a company, I'm like, they go in and they give everybody a raise because they want to keep them and they want to start off on a good foot and make everybody happy. And it's great. I love that. And that's awesome. But all of us sellers are like, great, now we look like the cheap asses that weren't giving. I'm like, oh, great, give them all a raise. They're like, why didn't Christine give me a raise? But the one right now, Jennifer, she's like, look, I gave them all a raise January 1st. Like, they just all got a raise. So we'll see what the buyer decides on that time. And again, that's cool. It's funny, they always want to do that, because they want to keep everybody, of course. If you do decide to choose a professional to help you sell, please check whether it's business, an advisor, a business broker, intermediary, whoever. If you really want to engage with someone to help you sell your company, please check their references. Please check their references. I've heard so many crazy horror stories, and even recently. See their lead response time. Check, so meaning, okay, you might work with this broker and you want to see, you could probably search what they currently have listed and pretend like you're a buyer for one of their current listings and inquire. See how fast they respond. See how nice they are to you. See if they follow up again, because people get busy. So like for us, follow up is key. Like we're following up constantly every other day, text, call, email. Because people get busy, and I have to train my Gen Z team. I know we talked about them yesterday. Cindy was talking. We have to pick up the phone. It's fine. Just check in every couple days. Like, you're not going to piss people off. They're just going to tell you they're not interested anymore. But we have to follow up with all these leads coming in for our listings. So do the same. So you're